more on the political side to try to overcome political polarization is Braver Angels. And there are a couple of organizations like that. I can't remember the names of all of them, but they have this
Yeah.
perspective of having.
Crossing party lines.
Hmm?
Crossing party lines
Oh,
is
yes.
one of
Well,
that's the
yes.
one I used to volunteer for them. I was a moderator for them for a while.
Yeah. So the drift was to get people to be able to talk about things, even that they disagree strongly over, and
Mhm.
still find common humanity. And but that's the interesting thing about our little corners. Very seldom are political issues even broached because people are thinking about the another layer that's down underneath all that political stuff, right?
Yeah, my personal journey was to I think in 2020, it was in 2020 during the pandemic when there wasn't a lot of work. I wasn't working. Um, I was researching those organizations. There was Braver Angels, Crossing Party Lines, Building Bridgers, a bunch of different ones that cropped up, and they were all for that purpose of they were worried about the growing polarization, and they wanted to basically teach communication skills. Braver Angels was founded by a marriage and family therapist using the techniques of conflict counseling, counseling couples when they have conflicts, using those same techniques, but for what they call reds and blues,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd have all these different techniques. And I went to some of their events, and they would have these exercises that they would do. And then I went through the whole moderation training for crossing party lines, and we would do these events over Zoom because it was during the pandemic, and we'd have just a whole bunch of people, and we would run these sort of exercises of basically modeling how to listen to understand, how to ask a question because you genuinely have a question, not because you're trying to do a gotcha question, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wound up kind of finding out or about myself was that I was actually what is interested of what's upstream of politics. So if you say politics is downstream of culture, what's upstream of culture? And I put that on Twitter. I said on Twitter, if politics is downstream of culture, what's upstream? And then Matthew Pajot, of all people, answered me, and he said, wizards. Wizards are upstream of culture. And so I feel like my personal journey has been going upstream because I realized that all of these political debates have a frame, and they're framed in terms of, for example, wedge issues, and they're also framed by the 24-hour news cycle in terms of things that will garner attention. And the easiest way to get attention is to push the outrage button because that activates the limbic system. And the limbic system is the part of the brain that triggers the fight or flight instinct. And so that's what happens when you hear a view that you strongly disagree with, is that fight or flight thing will come in. Physiologically, it will move you to action. And that's why you'll find that you have people on Twitter that have thousands and thousands of followers is because they keep pressing that button, which is the lower brain function button to cause people to either love or hate them, and so I realized, I'm not sure if that's the most healthy game to play. Because look at the motivation for people that are doing it. If you can monetize attention and the 24-hour news cycle and the Twitter sphere and the social media monetization, techniques and all that, they've discovered that activating the limbic system is the easiest way to do it. Do they really have your best interest in mind, yours and my best interest in mind, when they're writing these articles and doing these news stories and tweeting these tweets and doing all that stuff? Are they really concerned with human flourishing and the common good and that sort of thing? Or are they just using this mechanism for the purposes of this monetization technique? So I think that the conversations going on in this little corner are upstream of that. They are saying, I mean, it's absolutely clear that someone like Paul or someone like Jonathan, or John Vervaeke, yourself, Sevilla, all of these different people have a genuine question that they want to answer an answer to, and genuine ideas that they want to explore, and they're not concerned with this other game that I think has maybe gotten a little maladaptive,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why I find it as much as I enjoyed moderating these crossing party lines events, it was exhausting,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like we were locked into that box of just the political conversations. And
Mm-hmm.
whereas maybe I wanted to go outside of the box and talk about philosophy or talk about religion or talk about theology, talk about aesthetics or whatever,